Welcome to I See What You Mean, a podcast about how people get on the same page and stay there, or don't, or perhaps shouldn't. Today my guest is Erik Jens. Erik is a fellow HQ exec principal with a long career in executive positions leading business turnarounds and transformations. Erik, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Lou. Thank you so much, and I'm very happy to be here. Thanks for inviting me.
You're very welcome. I'm looking forward to our conversation. Give our viewers the short bio on your background.
Well, short bio. Yeah, let's keep it short indeed. Well, to start with, I'm Dutch, born in Holland, but my parents took me all over the world. My dad was in the military, and later on he was in construction business, so we were all over the world. And then I learned to, as a kid on, when I was 2 years old, and later on as well, to deal with different cultures, different people, different environments, and that triggered me to develop my own career later on. And I said, well, I can spend my last money to go abroad and learn about different people, work with different people. And yeah, actually, the career in finance was the most easiest way to do that from that point of view, because banks were international, and I worked for different banks, Fortis, ABN AMRO, in different roles in different countries. And basically all the roles were related to finance, credit, and lending on the one hand, but most important, especially the last 10 to 12 years, about transformation of businesses, the crisis in 2008, 2009 in the financial industry.
Okay. Interesting strategy. Finance banks are all over the world, and was a great idea.
Yeah, in a way, it was also when young people ask me what to do, I said, well, listen, if you graduated from university or whatsoever, either you create your own business or you start learning other businesses, but join a large multinational, for instance, the Heinekens or the Unilevers or the IBMs or whatsoever.
Yeah.
Go conquer the world with them and learn from them, KLM, Delta, whatever, and conquer the world, and then broaden yourself the first 5 or 6 years, and either you hang on there or you move on for yourself.
Good advice. Good advice. Good advice for a 20-something. So what are you doing these days that requires you to get people on the same page?
So I look back in my career and said, okay, everything was related to finance, to lending and credit, but also to, especially the last 10, 12 years, to transformation, to sustainability challenges, United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, how you deal with sustainability in the business.
Yeah.
And the other factor was technology.
Yeah.
Because technology, the last 5, 6, 7 years, I started to really get involved into blockchain and crypto, etc.
Okay.
So I thought, okay, so these three parts, technology, sustainability, and finance, hey, that looks like fintech.
Right.
So financial technology.
Right.
And then I thought, okay, what can I do there? And I put it all together, saying, well, the sectors I know best, especially in the transformation business I've been in, the transformation work I've been doing, was actually related to the luxury industry. So luxury, and then two parts, the art industry on the one hand, and the jewelry industry on the other hand.
Okay.
ABN AMRO was the global head of ABN AMRO Diamond Jewelry business. And I thought, okay, let's focus on those two sectors within the luxury sector with the three skill sets I have and experience I have, so sustainability and finance, etc. So that's what I'm doing. And I've been working recently on a big funding project, working capital facility for advising and doing introductions for a company in Greenland. And I've been working now on a sustainability related business in lab grown diamonds. Which is, I think, a very interesting market, not only for the jewelry business, but also for industrial application of industrial diamonds.
Well, let me ask you a question, because that's a big sustainability, especially like that. That's environmental sustainability. There's a lot of worker health and safety issues involved in that, right? Okay. Those are big things to get people on the same page about. So what do you do, and how do you, what does it mean for you when you're trying to get folks on the same page? What do you see? What's that challenge?
Yeah, that's a good point. And in the sector, the jewelry sector in particular, I've been active enough for the last 12 years. It's a very dispersed industry. There's a lot of polarization going on in between different countries and different organizations, etc. And what I mean about that, when we talk about sustainability, everybody recognizes the United Nations global compact, 17 Sustainable Development Goals. But each organization wants to implement things like that on their own. And I said at a certain moment, well, listen, why don't we combine and work together and work with the different federations to federate ourselves and to stop confusing the consumer. For instance, on diamonds, if you buy a diamond, people are almost saying, yeah, it's a good diamond. It's a non-conflict diamond because you excuse yourself already. But if you buy an iPhone, nobody knows whether there was child labor involved, or environmental issues or whatsoever. You don't think about it.
Right.
So we said, listen, if we have that common goal to make sure that people realize that buying a diamond, and diamonds do good for millions of people worldwide because they make the livelihood of it. And then I think we have that common goal and work together towards the common goal. So yeah, I've been advocating that and building bridges between the different organizations with that common goal. And then you see people having cross references in participating in each other's boards or accrediting each other's organization. And I did that by doing, well, basically what I'm good at, putting the people together and say, hey, what's our common goal and how can we make that happen? Same thing, for instance, in blockchain.
Let me ask you about that so far, the common goal there. Yeah. I heard that as a marketing common goal, branding common goal. It could have been much, much more, but that's how I heard it. So tell me more about what that goal meant to them that you were trying to get them to see.
But the common goal is to establish, enhance consumer trust in the product. Mm-hmm. For instance, the jewelry industry, nobody needs jewelry. Nobody needs a diamond. Nobody needs a ruby. I mean, yeah, you need bread and butter and water and whatsoever. That's what you need. Mm-hmm. But jewelry is a luxury.
Right.
So, and if there's a little question about the luxury, and we've seen it in apparel, we've seen it in leather, we've seen it in forestry, then people say, I'm not buying it. So you have to create and build that trust. That is the common goal. So there's, on the one hand, the common goal by doing things right, a better organization, a better industry for a better world. And at the same time, make sure there's the economic viability over there.
That desiring to present the public with an image that they could trust would require some behavior change. So what were the conversations like when you had to convince people to look at, I don't know, their profit and loss differently or their timeline differently?
Yeah, well, there are different ways. I think there are always people who say, well, I don't believe in it. And for me, it's tick the box exercise. Otherwise, I can't sell to Tiffany or Signet or whatsoever. But you started to find those people within the industry who think alike, who know that it's the right thing to do. That's the one thing. So you start creating champions, ambassadors, and connect those. So as an example group, so create that pull rather than the push. The second thing what you do is try to provide tools. I mean, if you can start talking about sustainability and SDGs and ESG and CSR, I mean that's a world we live in for people who are in that business. But you have to explain what it is. So start educating what it is. So make people less afraid of it, but have a common understanding. So education is key, and then tools like blockchain. I mean, you can say that the industry is sustainable from a sourcing perspective, mine to market is clean, but you better prove it. And technology is there to prove it. So people don't have to be afraid of all kind of exams and audits and whatsoever. No, with technology, you can prove that the industry has the right provenance and the right transparency and is an open and modern industry. So I think that is what we try to do in the conversation we had with all the people.
You and I talked in our prep call about, you said that you think people are more willing to change than they're often given credit for. That resistance to change is caused less by change than by how leaders and organizations handle it.
I agree. And I think, first and foremost, I think modern leadership is not what we used to know from the old, I tell you, and I'm the boss, no. I don't think it works like that. And anyway, not in the organizations I worked with, and I was successful with. When I got appointed as a leader for the different teams over the years in the transformation business for the banks, I the first 100 days I observed and I looked at what was motivating the people in my team and how they were dealing with issues, how they were dealing with their people, how they were dealing with their clients. And from there, I sort of painted the picture saying, hey, is this the team I want to move forward with? Or do we need to make changes in the team? And then I had very frank and open conversation in those first 100 days by saying, hey, guys, this is sort of direction we are going with the business, whether it's on the sustainability area or strategic wise or whatsoever. And are you on board with this? I am on board with this. And where we are going, we don't know, quo vadis, because we're in a transformation phase. We have an idea, but we don't know where we're going.
Right.
But are you willing to put your shoulders under that? And at the same time, I think that I also looked at the composition of the team, whether how sustainable it was from a gender perspective, diversity perspective. And so I made a lot of change. I always insisted that within a short period of time, half of my team was consisting of women, not just bankers in a suit, but basically a very diverse team with different nationality, different genders, etc. Extremely important, and from there you start creating an excitement in the team, saying, well, Erik is a good guy, but and he makes himself pretty vulnerable because he also says, I don't know where we're going, but we have a direction. So we build together that future.
So I'm going to ask you. Good.
Yeah, and I'm a facilitator in that process.
What I'm hearing you say is, you were a lead. You were the team lead for the transformation effort. I'm thinking that the executives were seeking some true transformation. If you weren't going to work for somebody who was going to put a veneer on something, you wanted to help change something. So the values that they had values that had to do with transforming the organization in some way, whatever it was. To make it different and stay different.
Right. It was finding the values and motivation of the individuals in my team, and saying, what keeps you ticking? Right. And then when you come home in the evening with your family or your friends or whatsoever, what have you done today to make the difference? So what is really, excuse me, what is really making you tick, and what is really making you feel good?
I like that because it suggests that there's some pent up desire in them to make something different and better.
Exactly, and that instead of me telling them what to do, they came to me saying, "Hey, I have an idea. What shall we do there? And or shall we do this?" So I created that pull from their side. And
pull, right?
And you know what? One of the things I learned as well, actually from my previous boss, I always want to learn from a boss. I need to learn from a boss, otherwise I can't work with him or her. And what I learned from a very good boss I had, he always asked questions. And I was growing up in those days in an environment that the boss knows everything.
Right.
Yes, and he tells what to do.
Right.
No, but this was a boss saying, "Hey, Erik, what about this and this?" And I thought, well, that's a pretty simple question. I mean, why is he asking me? Because he knows. I know he knows. but he wanted to experience. He wanted to have the dialogue in this case, and checking out also a little bit. Okay, how is Erik thinking about this? So I learned to ask questions rather than telling what to do, and we created excitement in one of the business I was in. That was the make it ready for sale. I mean, people said, where are we going? Quo vadis. Where are we going with this? I said, I don't know. But I do know we have to do our stinking best, to say in good Dutch. We have to really do our best to create our own future. And if we do that well, there is a future.
Well, you didn't know specifically, but you had a general aim.
Yeah, well, listen. I mean, there was a general aim. It's not like, okay, let's get started. But that was a business which was ailing in terms of results. It was the banking business in general was an issue, etc. So the bank said to me, Erik, well, go there and check out the strategy. What are we going to do? Are we going to close it down, as a business, or are we going to sell it? Are we going to keep it? All options were open.
Okay.
So after my first 100 days, I said, well, that's interesting. And I went back to my bosses, to the board. I said, well, I think we should keep it, and we should make it a huge success. But we have to do a lot of changes, a lot of transformation. We have to probably reduce a lot of number of staff. We have to say goodbye to certain clients, etc., etc. But we're going to make it a healthy
They're
business.
pretty
So we choose for that.
comprehensive.
Yes, and we choose for that strategy, and everybody got excited to do it.
What was the narrative? I always think in terms of triggers and narrative and behaviors. I like to think about how those things work together. So my question is, what was the narrative that you heard? What was pent up? What were people hoping to do, trying to do, that you could catalyze because you determined that they were up for it and it was viable? The change was viable.
I think what we created again was always that common goal. So I want to make sure that people start speaking, in the end, same language with respect to that common goal.
Yeah.
And I heard my people saying, also Quo Vadis, question mark. I heard them telling that to their people, in their teams, that they were also vulnerable. Say, well, we just came out of the management team, and yeah, we look at our strategy, but there are different options. But this and this is what we're going to do. So that whole thing, that narrative was filtering down, percolating down into the organization and up. I think it has to go both ways.
Right. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And I ask because I use a framework for understanding situations that includes triggers, narrative, and behaviors, and how I look at them independently, and then I look at how they operate together. And one of the things that I do when I look at narrative, I focus on very specific words and phrases that people use. And I want to understand, I look for the energy around those words.
Yeah.
Is it, which way is it going? Is it for something or against something? And what's the strength or the valence of it? Is it, weak, medium, strong? And I just want to know, because it tells me what something means to somebody. And if I want to understand more deeply, I know what to ask about. If they're using a word or a phrase repeatedly, or they emphasize it, or they have facial expressions, nonverbals, that tells me something that matters to somebody, and I want to know more about it. It's the doorway in. It's an easy doorway in. Yeah. I always thought about it in terms of the energy around the word or the phrase, what it means to them. But I never knew about management drives, and even until I looked it up after we spoke, and it's not till now that we're talking that I'm realizing you're onto something big with the idea of knowing what energizes. So what energizes somebody then is also what motivates them and what rewards them. They're motivated to do something, right?
Absolutely, because in those change programs, I also made it very clear. Okay, this is the stage. We worked on it together as a team. The people who didn't want to join or didn't want to stay whatsoever are out. So we're in it together now, and this is what we're going to do. This is what I expect, what you can expect from me, and at the end, there's the pot of gold, maybe, and whether that's monetary, whether that is pride and energy or whatsoever. So there are different motivators in that, but the most important motivator for the people was not that money in the end.
Right.
Not that money. It was their self-esteem and the self-respect and learning and experience and creating an additional value from themselves by going through certain processes. And that's the philosophy we had. So we were sure that we were speaking the same language, about the same goals, and create the same anxiety and positive anxiety and energy. And we needed to have a buzzword, so something which everybody understands. So and it actually became Quo Vadis, and you need to have a tagline. And in another program of another transformation business of a point I did was, we call it the program Smile. So which was a program on its own. So everybody started recognizing we are into something, yes, and
that's great.
Bodies or Smile or I use that with my different teams in different situations.
So that concept became imbued with meaning for those folks.
Yeah, absolutely.
And possibly different kinds of meanings at different levels, or different if you're in the center of the organization or you're out at the periphery.
Yeah. Yeah, meaning and involvement, meaning and inclusion, meaning and yeah, being part of change, and because when people are confronted, getting back to your question, confronted with change, they if they don't know, they sort of, oh, let's see what's happening. Especially if you look at different cultures. I did this from India to Switzerland to the US to UK to Luxembourg, Singapore. So you have to filter this kind of approaches also vis-a-vis the different cultures.
Oh, that's a good question.
So,
Sorry.
yeah, no, and I think that is something which I think is key to success as well.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
If you introduce the concept of change to an organization, some people might have an approach motivation toward that. Maybe they just by makeup, they like change, they see opportunity in it, they're ready with something, they're going to move toward it. Some are going to have an avoidance motivation. They're going to back up some and say, whoa, wait.
Absolutely.
And then
all the curves are there.
And there's a lot in the middle who are neutral for, maybe they're just not sure. They want to, is it going to be work? Is it going to go well? Is it going to go badly? This Jens guy's got 100 days. Let me see what he does. Let me see what, right?
Exactly.
They want to
wait and see.
Fair enough. Okay, fair enough.
Yeah.
So people have a reaction like that. And let's say that they watched you for 100 days. You did a number of things over that time. For those who were ready for a change and wanted to have at it, you probably found ways to encourage that. Mm-hmm. For those who were undecided, you probably found ways to talk to them or listen to them. I want to know what you heard that you could address, that you did address. More people were ready on that 100th day than they were on the first day.
Yeah.
And perhaps the diversity, I wanted to come back to, perhaps the diversity was part of that too. If they saw you compose a diverse team, and they saw you not have all the answers, you did a lot of things there that would contribute to people getting on the same page.
Yeah, correct. And you have to do it yourself. You, in a way, for me, I'm a very patient person from that point of view. I like to see always the best in people. I hate confrontation. I like change. I like growth. I like innovation. I really have problem with fights and negative energy. I really lose energy on that. And after that first period, saying, okay, guys, this is where we go. I realized also that a lot of managers spend a lot of time on people who are not on board. Mm-hmm. So that means that sometimes I see managers spending 70% of their human resources and management time to convince people who are not on board. Yeah. And then only 20 or 30% of the time to the people who are on board.
And people don't really want to be convinced. People don't want to be convinced.
No, exactly. So that's this change thing and whatsoever. So I said, hey, I was vulnerable. I said, this is where we go. I was open-minded. We changed things. We changed the team, etc. Are you still not on board? You had all the chance to get on board, to climb on board, jump on board, whatsoever. If you're still not on board, you have to go. Better for us, better for you, whatever sequence, you have to go. And we can't spend more time and energy on you to convince you or create an environment where you feel comfortable. You have to go. Mm-hmm. And then people say, oh, that's tough. No, it's not tough. It's fair. It's fair for them. It's fair for us. Yeah. And most important, it's fair for the rest of the organization. So and then people left. And you do need to rotate your team to create that change. And getting some fresh people from outside, but also very important, get younger people from inside. People said to me, well, he or she is a young girl, a young man, a young boy. I said, well, what can we lose? Give. And the thing is, what I just said, I'm over 60, so we think everybody's a young kid. No, somebody 30. When I was 30, I was running a company, was a CEO of a company. So right. And now you think he's 30-year-old, what a young kid. No. Come on. So give that next generation that opportunity.
Well,
so
and
don't be afraid.
I know a little bit about the research on that. What the research shows is most important in organizations is a diversity of thinking. So inasmuch as a diversity of thinking is associated with gender or associated with ethnicity or associated with age, right? That's when those that's when you compose the team that quote unquote looks different. What you're really trying to do now, this is what the research is saying. You tell me your experience. What you're really trying to do is compose the team that thinks differently, that can come together and
Yeah.
share the different points of view and vantage points on things to create something that no one person alone or no subset of them would likely have created.
I completely agree, and it is extremely difficult, especially in those different cultures, because I know, for instance, in U.S. culture in those days, I don't know that from ABN AMRO time, that when the CEO of ABN AMRO went to the U.S. and doing this kind of inclusive approach with respect to strategy and leadership and results, then he left, and his management in the U.S. would say, "What is going on? I mean, that's what a soft approach. He didn't yell at us. He didn't yell at us. He didn't say these are the targets. He did so." They were completely confused here. So because that's I mean, yeah, that's a different way. And I'm not saying it's bad or it's right or wrong, but he missed completely. And there's years ago, it's like now, but he missed completely the fact that there's a local cultural component and habits. So you need to understand that. If you're in India, I spent a lot of time in India. What we try to do sometimes is impose the Western values
right
culture into other values and cultures.
Right.
It doesn't work.
Right.
I mean, and you have to, getting back to the diversity, you have to be very, very clear on what the impact is of certain decisions you make, the certain communication you made, etc., etc.
But how did you build?
Yeah.
What did you do on teams that were diverse to build trust?
What I used was a tool called management drives, and management drives. I think everybody can Google it. It's a tool I've been using now for different managements and different management teams and different transformation processes I was, where it actually already relates to something I said earlier in this podcast. You can have a questionnaire from management drives as an organization where you fill out what gives you energy, and you fill out where you lose energy on. So, and what I said, I lose energy on conflict, and I gain energy on growth and excitement and innovation. Other people gain energy from checking the numbers and have the right controls, etc. But other people get a lot of energy from working together as a team, etc. So management drives is a very comprehensive but very clear tool to develop a view on your team as a whole, but also on the different individuals, to know what is driving each other, as an individual, as a team. So when you do that exercise with management drives, you share that information, the scan of how your team looks like. Is your team very orange? You have all kind of people who want to grow and want to develop and do innovation and change, etc. Or you have a very blue team, which is only about the numbers and controls, etc. So that's one. And then you share those individual results. What I said, I'm very orange and yellow. I want to do that. So I might change, but if you do then the individual assessment and you share that with each team member, and I shared my first profile. I was the first to share the profile, and it's so there's a whole recognition there. Yeah, that's Erik, typical Erik, yellow and orange. He always wants to change. Yes, and that's a remark which comes from a blue person who's happened to be the CFO in my team, and the blue person gets energy from the figures, and hates yellow because it's too much change, and that's the kind of tool, and you create a kind of a game out of it that later also, when you have those sessions with the team about management drives and the different colors, then my CFO would, for instance, say, "Oh, that's such a yellow remark, Erik. I'm sorry, I can't deal with it." So any conflict or potential of any potential conflict or tensions can be discussed and brought to the surface in a very open, humorous, but very clear way. Because for me, it was a signal from him. Oh, shoot, he's right. I better check a couple of things on the figures. And is it really true what I'm saying? Yeah.
I was wondering how you used the knowledge of of what drives each other.
Yeah.
Second, it might be the case that helps you respect that person more, and you know they're not the only blue person in the team or the only, there's others. Maybe you
Yes,
develop some respect for, okay, there's something valid to that too that I don't pay attention to so much, but
yeah,
somebody should.
exactly. And I had a very good experience, a good example from that. I had one guy in the team that was in my private banking time, and I was trying to. I was responsible for global investments. We were running a $60 billion portfolio for the bank at that time, and we were merging, and it was before 2010. We were merging different banks, and so I was end responsible for everything what happened on investments within that bank, advisory, funds, etc., etc. But we were a group of 8 different banks coming together, and
Oh, okay.
everybody had his own CIO, chief investment officer. Everybody had his own investment strategy, and now what? And I was tasked by the board. I was in the board, but a fellow board member said, Erik, you have to make one investment policy, one strategy, etc. Oh my God! And then we had people from Luxembourg, from Switzerland, from all over the world, and I thought, okay, how are we going to do that? But I used that management drives, and one of the guys in my team, I thought he was a very difficult guy. He was never saying anything. He had a body language from here to Tokyo, but I thought he's constant in not even saying it, but this
You
body
knew,
language.
right?
I knew something was wrong, and he
Well, he
never
made
said
sure his
anything.
message was clear.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Hands forward, his hands, etc. And I think, oh my God, how am I going to deal with this? And we did the management drive team, and he was reluctantly sharing his profile, and he was purple, and he was the first purple colored person in the team. Talk about diversity, who I met over the years with this management drives tool, and I said, well, that's interesting. And what is purple? What is the typical purple? He gets energy from he gets drive from rituals, family, and the old cavaliers, the knights, so that really deep history and values and
Like
family and those
tradition.
kind of things. Tradition, very much tradition. And he lost energy. He's losing a lot of energy on those guys who blah blahing and whatsoever, like me. Because I'm too orange, too noisy, and then we started to establish that. And I had a coffee with him and chatted. We went through the profile, my profile, his profile, and then I realized that he was one of the most valuable persons in my team.
Yeah.
Because he was so different. He was so different, and then he realized that, well, maybe Erik's not such a bad guy, and he's maybe what he says is make some sense, and he's complimenting me, his complementarity for my skills and view, and maybe we can work together.
Yeah.
So he became a true partner in that team, and I started to ask him questions.
Yeah.
What do you think about it? And then he was happy and open and supported enough from his to share his point, knowing that I would listen to him.
Yeah.
And that I think that's a very good example.
So,
don't just think that you know, but make sure you know.
I was a young guy. I was working for the government, and I was in graduate school at the time, and I was on a team. This is back in TQM days. Mm-hmm. Okay, so now I can date the time of that, and the operations in this branch I was working in were going to become more. We're going to apply TQM principles, and there was a guy there, had been there in a while in the branch, who was not very. He acted very old. He wasn't so old. He acted like an old curmudgeon. He really did. And I had signed up to be one of the folks to help organize the effort, and I approached him to contribute and to participate, and he had zero interest. He just about threw me out of his office. But I knew that he knew things we would want to know. He'd been around for a while, and so I knew that he had knowledge that would be valuable in where could this go wrong. And so for a while, he sort of patronized me with answering some of those questions. Then he started showing up at some team meetings, which were publicly announced, and he would sit at the back along the wall. And over time, he actually began to participate more. But it was for the very reason that you said, which was he had something valuable to contribute. The trick was finding the way to tap into that.
Yeah.
And not everyone contributes the same. So if you don't see somebody like I'm more like you, enthusiastic, energetic about it, you don't see someone like that. You see someone holding back, and you think, forget them. No, don't forget
Correct.
them. Find a way to
No.
connect them.
Yeah, and the risk is what I found out when I did these scans with management drives, and of course everybody is participating voluntarily and on this, because again you open up to your colleagues, you open up to yourself, which is challenging. But I also learned that I had a habit of collect similar type of persons around me in my team,
Right.
apart from diversity, whether it's color, gender, whatsoever. But I like people who are orange and yellow,
Right.
if you know what I mean, in terms of
Well, your
drive.
energy
But
feeds off of each
yeah,
other.
that's where I get the energy from. So it's logical, but that's very dangerous, because if you end up with a team with only orange, yellow people, I mean, you go everywhere except where you want to go. So you need to have the green people, the purple
Yes.
people, and
Yes.
of
Yes.
course,
Yes.
and the blue people, and also the red people. And I
Yes.
always had this, and he became my COO. I can't mention the name, but if he hears
Yeah.
that, he will
Yeah.
recognize himself.
Yeah.
But he was always saying yes, but.
Yeah.
So we said also at a certain moment, hey, you're allowed to say, you're not allowed to say yes. Often he always said, yeah, no, but, no, this. And I said, no, you're allowed to say yes, but. So stop saying no. We don't have the word no here. Say yes, but. And he was always grumpy and complaining. But we started to make jokes about it and
Yeah.
say, there you have XYZ. And there's this red thing coming in when he don't get his right. So it created a good
Yeah, it shows
good
respect when
atmosphere.
so the communication style could be off-putting, grumpy, or sullen, but my communication style could be off-putting to somebody else. So
Exactly.
so
Mine for sure.
if
That's what I
you
learned. Yeah.
if you get past that and you say to them, no, 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 I want to know what you think because I want to take it seriously,
Yeah.
then you
Yeah.
show respect for them in a different level. You're not letting the communication
Yeah.
bother. You show in respect for their knowledge and capability that you want.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And if you have bridged that thing in your individual relationship as a leader, but also in the relationship between the team members, you can move mountains.
Yeah.
I mean, what we have done with those different teams, and whether it was in the banking side for in Switzerland, or with the hedge fund business I had with Fortis, or all the other businesses we had to transform after the crisis and during the crisis.
Yeah.
Then you can move mountains, and all of these businesses, they were actually poised to be run down, winded down, or whatsoever. I said, no, I'm not giving in. We're not going to wind it down. I can do it if you want, but that's not creating value. So all the businesses we decided to keep, I was involved with, we decided to keep, energize it, and we turned around and sold it to different banks and other organizations, because I can't give up on people. But at the same time, sometimes if you want to sell a business and you have to transform it, you also have to go and tell the story to people. Sorry, your office is not included in your location is not included in the deal.
Yeah.
And again, I don't want to mention that. So
Yeah.
I went to an island in the Caribbean where work is not just work. Work is life there. It's a lifetime employment. It's not lifetime employability on those islands.
Yeah.
It was lifetime employment. I had to tell 60 people, 55 people on that island that they lost their job.
Yeah.
And that we're going to close the shop. A shop which was there already for almost 70 years.
Wow.
60, 50, 55 people is direct, is 500 people indirect, and 1,000 people even.
Yes. Yes.
And that has a huge impact. But what people said, Erik, and I went there for a week to organize everything together with my head of HR for my team. And I stayed in the end 3 weeks to make sure everything happened. And they said, Erik, you had to take a decision to in this whole transaction. We understand it, but we hate it. But the fact that you're here, you tell it, and you don't send anybody else. But you are here, and you stay longer. You're part of us. So
yeah,
it's a horrible situation, but you took the initiative and to come here and to deal with it yourself. So you have to stand for your troops. You have to do it yourself. You have to stay in the gutter and get out of it together with your people, and no matter what circumstances. And I remember also a roadshow I did to the different offices, and I thought, okay, I need again to have this recognition, whether that's Quo Vadis or any other thing, this energy. And I took the song of Katy Perry, Firework, which is a kind of upbeat song. I'm not sure whether everybody knows it, but it's pretty upbeat. It's a couple of years ago already, but listen to it, and it creates so much energy. So when I went to the different offices, it was playing everywhere at a certain moment, and it became a tagline in the organization. Firework.
Oh, wow. See,
yeah,
all right.
simple things, but it unites, and you walk the office. Hey, Mr. Firework, there we go.
Simple thing, phrase, concept like that. But we've all seen many over the years that were empty. So they were slogans, and then they don't have the same meaning, and they don't have the same energy. So the challenge that you met, being able to make those slogans, make that saying mean something real to the people who use them. So if they said energy, if it was about energy, it was about energy for them, not just for you saying, let's be upbeat about this.
Yeah, correct. And because I mean, people are not fools, and they know exactly whether this is a meaningful message or just blah blah.
Right.
So you have to always combine what you have to walk the talk. Yes, you say what you're doing.
Yes.
And you execute it. And I always hear back from people, well, yeah, Erik, well, sometimes it's tough, but he has to be tough. But at least he's consistent. He has always the same story. It's a consistent story, whether that was Quo Vadis, whether that was Firework, and it has to be meaningful. And I think what I always did with my management teams as well, sitting together. Okay, looking back, what were the targets? What did we achieve? What didn't we achieve? Why not? So, but it's also like that little girl comes home from school, and instead of having a whole list of A's and one C, so everybody's focusing on that C, the bad rating, rather than focusing on the 8 A's. And what happened to the C? No, you have to say to people, wow, this goes well, and where are the gaps? So anyway.
Well, it shows respect, and respect is a theme I keep hearing in what you're saying. If you operated with some integrity, people could see that. So when you stayed for 3 weeks to help close that operation, you showed integrity. You knew it was changing their lives. You knew if you could have made a different decision, you would have.
Yes.
But the fact that you gutted it out with them, at least in the transition, you didn't, like you said, you didn't send someone else. So you didn't show up for one day for 3 hours and deliver the message and then jet off someplace else. You stayed and probably saw those folks every day for 3 weeks.
Yep.
Then they respected that. You delivered news they didn't want to hear. Maybe some of them couldn't find jobs for a while after that, but but they know that that's not in anybody's control all the time. You showed respect for how you did it. I think that a big secret to your success has been what you figured out. However you found management drives, I don't know, but the idea that management drives focuses on energy fascinates me, because there's so many models and methods. Like you said, there's Myers-Briggs, and there's DISC, and there's individual, and there's team, and there's organizational assessments. But energy is important because it's where people live, right? In the heart, in the gut. And then when they can tie their knowledge and skill to something that's driving them, man, that's the sweet spot. If that's change, that's change. If it's just steady operations, it's steady operations. Or if it's incremental growth, it's whatever it is. I'm always asking, what does it mean to be on the same page? And if you can think about getting people on the same page in terms of their energy, and you understand that energy comes from different places. People get energy from different kinds of things. And then you compose, you constitute, right? You create the situation where they can contribute and tap into what matters to them. I don't want to say it's foolproof, but how can you go wrong if you're able to get to that point?
No, I think it's all about authenticity, respect, be genuine when you talk with people, and when you set goals and common goals to make the change and to make it
Uh-huh.
successful again. Okay, let's go.
Yeah, yeah. Wow, this was a lot of fun. I learned a lot. Thank you.
Well, thank you again for having me, and for me it was a lot of fun as well.
We covered a lot of issues from different angles, and that's what I like to do.
Awesome. Take care.
Have a good day. Safe travels.
Okay, you too. Okay, absolutely. Thanks.
Bye-bye. And that's how we see it, my friends. I want to thank Erik for recording today's episode. You can find it on Castos, where I host my show, or all the usual places that you listen to podcasts. Send questions and suggestions through the app. Subscribe and give me a 5-star rating. Unless you can't, in which case tell me why. And join me next week when we take another look at how to get on the same page and stay there, unless we shouldn't.